What's making this GOAT thing so weird is that we never really get anything that's like final, right? Like the Jordan LeBron debate is like, look, LeBron has left, but he played this. And there are other factors involved where it's like this conversation is largely like math doesn't care about your feelings, and math doesn't care about your vaccination status, and math doesn't care about, like, very simply, right? Very simply. And I saw Prime Federer.
Let's be clear about something. Novak Djokovic walking into Wimbledon 2026 at the age of 39, seeded 8th, fresh off an early exit in Paris. That is not a story about decline. That is a setup. And if you've watched this man long enough, you know exactly what happens when the whole world starts writing his name off. The Serbian legend has built an entire career on silencing rooms that were already applauding the next guy. He has done it so many times in so many different circumstances that you would think analysts and commentators would have learned their lesson by now. But here we are again, the same conversation, the same doubts, and the same Djokovic preparing for the tournament where he has written some of the most dominant chapters in tennis history. 7 Wimbledon titles. 7. That puts him level with Pete Sampras on the all-time list, with only Roger Federer's 8 ahead of him. And Djokovic is not done chasing that number. He joined Federer last year as the only players in history to surpass 100 victories at the All-England Club. That is not a statistic that belongs to a man who is simply hanging around. That is a statistic that belongs to a man who still knows how to win on this surface better than almost anyone alive. The Roland Garros exit hurt. There is no question about that. Losing to João Fonseca in a marathon match, dropping out of the top 8 in the rankings, it looked bad on paper, and it produced a wave of reactions across the tennis world. But here is what nobody seems to be accounting for. Djokovic has not been eliminated before the quarterfinals at Wimbledon since 2017. Nearly a decade of deep runs on the grass, including 4 titles in that span, plus 2 consecutive finals in 2023 and 2024 against Carlos Alcaraz. That consistency does not evaporate overnight. Former American champion Andy Roddick addressed this directly on his podcast, and his read of the situation was sharp. He made the point that finding an analyst who does not believe Wimbledon is Novak's single best opportunity for another Grand Slam right now is almost impossible. Roddick specifically noted that the absence of Alcaraz, who has withdrawn from the tournament with an injury, changes the equation dramatically. The 2-time defending champion is gone, and that opens a path that simply did not exist in recent years. Roddick's deeper point was about mindset. He described the way Djokovic looks at the current landscape of tennis, surveying his competition, identifying where he still has advantages, and building a belief system around it. On grass, Djokovic can genuinely claim to be the most effective player in the field. His movement on this surface, his tactical management, his ability to compress points and neutralize power, these things have not aged the same way they might on clay or hard courts. Grass rewards experience and precision. Djokovic has both in quantities that no one else in that draw can match. The man who stands between Djokovic and that historic 25th Grand Slam title is Jannik Sinner. The world number 1 enters Wimbledon as the clear favorite, and that status is completely earned. Sinner has been playing at a level that makes every opponent uncomfortable, regardless of the surface or the occasion. Several analysts have been candid in saying that a fully fit Sinner is almost unbeatable in a best-of-5 format right now. That is, the mountain Djokovic is facing. But here is the complication for Sinner's camp. Being seeded 8th means Djokovic's draw could produce a quarterfinal meeting between these two before either of them has a chance to cruise safely through to the later rounds. That is not a friendly bracket for anyone. It creates pressure on Sinner to peak early, and it gives Djokovic a massive stage, exactly the kind of moment he has historically elevated for. Tim Henman and several other respected voices in the sport have been consistent in saying that this is Djokovic's most realistic shot at 25. The logic holds up. Grass reduces the physical load that harder surfaces impose. The rallies are shorter, the points are more tactical, and the premium on experience goes up significantly. Every single one of those factors tips in Novak's direction. There is also the ranking situation to consider from a different angle. If Djokovic does not go deep here, if he fails to defend the points he accumulated at last year's Wimbledon, he risks falling outside the top 10 for the first time in 8 years. That kind of pressure would crush most players. For Djokovic, historically it has worked as fuel. The threat of something being taken away has always made him sharper, not more hesitant. He is being careful with journalists, as he almost always is before a major. He does not make sweeping declarations or predictions. He understands the risk of planting expectations that can be used against him later. That restraint is deliberate, but anyone paying attention can read what is underneath it. This is a player who knows exactly what this tournament means, who knows exactly why his chances have improved, and who is absolutely not treating this as a farewell tour. The thing about Djokovic that separates him from almost every other great champion is that his hunger does not work on a normal schedule. It spikes precisely when the conditions seem least favorable, when the conversation shifts away from him, when the crowd is cheering for someone younger, when the headlines are pointing toward the next generation. That is when Novak Djokovic becomes the most dangerous version of himself. Wimbledon 2026 has all the ingredients for something memorable. Sinner looking to continue his dominance, Djokovic trying to rewrite the conversation about his legacy, and a draw that could produce fireworks earlier than expected. You might think you know how this ends, but tennis has a way of making fools of certainty, and Novak Djokovic has been making fools of certainty for 2 decades. Do not write him off. You already know what happens